Welcome into Warchant TV, the Warchant Wrap. We're wrapping up Florida State's 38-22 loss Saturday night at NC State in Raleigh, North Carolina, where Corey Clark joins us from. In actuality, he may not look like it, but we swear he's somewhere inside the stadium at Carter Finley. I've been in that stadium about 10 times, Corey. It's never looked that nice. Where are you in the stadium?
This is actually my house. I don't know. You haven't been in my living room, but I have that big NC State picture that I got for Christmas last year that I put up in my living room. This is right outside the press box at Carter Finley Stadium.
Well, it's
right outside the bathrooms too.
Okay, good. Maybe somebody will, or if you get bored, you could go in there and relieve yourself while I'm talking.
Probably have better lighting. We can try that.
The Florida State loses their third game in a row, falls to 2-6 on the season, 1-6 in the ACC. It's kind of a weird game, Corey. I was going to get your thoughts. I was just talking to Gene and Tom on the post-game show about it. It was so disjointed. It was almost like there were several different things in the course of a game. It wasn't like there was one straight storyline from beginning to end. I thought early on, I thought they played pretty well in a couple of stretches. Then they kind of fell apart there in the second quarter and into the third quarter, but then they played pretty well, all things considered, down the stretch. What did you – I mean, from that standpoint, are there hard and fast things you could take away from this game?
Yeah, I think the first thing you want to focus on is Chubba, obviously, and we'll get to him in a second. But talking about the overall picture of the game, I thought they finished. They scored 3 second-half touchdowns. Getting down 28-3 obviously isn't ideal, but I thought they did fight and they did finish. And I didn't think the defense was terrible. I mean, look, what can you do? Brendan Gant, what other safety in the country just runs by that kid in that spot? That's a third down play that they're going to have to kick a field goal. Instead, it's a walk-in touchdown because Brendan Gant runs by him and doesn't even touch him. There are some things you can't coach. You know what I mean? There's just not – and I'm not excusing anything. But there's some things you can't coach. That is part of it. The safety play was not great. The middle of the field is always wide open. That slot receiver had 16 catches all year. He had 11 in that game. It reminded me of the Switzer kid. The kid. Remember the kid from Virginia Tech?
Yeah.
10 ACC championship game. It's like those slot guys, man. They've been terrorizing Florida State forever. But overall, I thought, I once you knew Jordan Travis wasn't playing, did you expect to win this game?
No, I agree.
And you see who wasn't there. Corey Durden wasn't there. Marvin Wilson wasn't there. You started 4 true freshman offensive linemen. You had 5 scholarship receivers. Like there wasn't a lot of good things going on for Florida State. So you just hope they would compete. And they did compete. Now the standard has been lowered here significantly. But the fact that they competed, won the fourth quarter, that might be something to build on.
Yeah, and I guess that was my point. Is it's like sometimes when they lost at Louisville, like – there's nothing good. There's nothing good.
Nothing redeeming. There was nothing redeeming about that.
And then when you beat North Carolina or you play at Notre Dame, there's a lot of positive things. Maybe in some cases more positive than negative. This was one where I really felt like it was kind of down the middle. I mean the defensive problems or the mistakes that happened in this game were not new mistakes. So it's kind of like hard to get all up in arms about them. We've seen them so many times. The lack of pass rush, the missed tackles, things like that. But the offense, to your point, not only did you start 6 freshmen on offense, several true freshmen and redshirt freshmen, but you also were limited at running back. LaDamian Webb was partially available. He didn't start.
Yeah.
I don't think he played till the second quarter, and he was kind of limited when he played. Mike Norvell indicated he'd been sick during the week. Lawrence Tofili was not available at all. He didn't play in the game. As you mentioned, they're already thin at wide receiver, so they were very hamstrung. The fact that they competed, is a positive. But the problem is when you say that, it feels weird even saying that. You lost 38-22 to NC State. You're now 2-6 on the season. It's hard to. I felt uncomfortable in the press conference because everybody's kind of asking positive questions or some positives from the story from the game because those things were there. But at the end of the day, this team is still kind of a wreck.
Yeah, and that's the column I wrote is like, look, this team is a wreck. You might not win another game. You probably won't. What is coming this Saturday, coming up in 6 days, is going to be the ugliest thing that's been in Doak Campbell stadiums. You can't even say it since the mid-'70s. It's going to be awful. Don't do it to yourselves, folks. Just get on Warchant afterwards and look at the score. Don't do it to yourself. So this team is what it is. It's bad. So you almost have to view it from a different prism now, right? Like in a game like this, especially like the Pitt game, I thought was different because they did have some starters there. They did have Tamari and Terry and not Marvin, but they had Tamari and Terry, Jordan Travis, and other guys, and they still played not good. This one, I thought, what were you expecting? It's not like we're surprised now what this Florida State team is. It is not good. So you have to judge on a curve for the foreseeable future, especially when you start, 10 freshmen. You started 6 on offense, 4 true freshmen on offense, 1 quarterback making his first start who had 20 career passing attempts. So you knew going in you weren't going to win. So I thought in this instance, in next week for sure, just look for positives to take away from it. Treat it as a scrimmage because you're not going to win the game. Don't focus on the scoreboard because that ship has sailed. This is a bad team that's going to have the worst record in most of our lifetimes.
Let me ask you.
The people of a certain age, this will be the worst record of our lifetimes.
Let me ask you this. In talking about
do I look scary? Do I look scary with the light on me or do I look okay?
A little ominous. Like I feel like if I walked in a room and that's what I saw, I'd feel like there's a good chance I'm not leaving the room.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm wondering about on YouTube when they see this as like the screen grab. Are they going to click on this or are they just to see like if it ends in a murder?
Aslan's going to make you look pretty. He'll figure it out.
Okay, good.
But no, you mentioned like fans should view it as a scrimmage. Is there any chance that that's what Mike Norvell's doing? Because he made some curious decisions in the first half, going to Tate Rodemaker.
That was just the Kentucky Derby, Ira. They were just Kentucky Derby offense.
And not that Tate looked terrible. I mean, the pick was the pick, but he had right before that he had a really nice scramble. But it just was it Chubba's game? If it's Chubba's game, it should be Chubba's game.
Yeah.
And then the 4th and 1 at his own 31 or 32 yard line may not endear himself to the fan base. I don't know if it matters. If they punt, NC State's probably going to go 60 or 70 yards at that point.
Are they going to cover the slot guy if they had punted? You know what I mean? So, but that you're right. And I think you have to treat it like that. I think this whole season is so bizarre. Again, no excuses. There's no excuse for the way this team looks. Well, there are. I mean, there is COVID going on, and he took over not a great program. But you have to go into the rest of the season yes, I think it's smart to do that. See what you have. What difference does it make? And by the way, they went for it on 4th down 7 times. Yeah. They converted 5, which is the most of any team this season in college football, which is crazy. A third of their first downs were on 4th down conversions. So he's coaching a little different because he has to. But I also think that should be a little encouraging to Florida State fans that this guy does do things a little differently. And he does see that the defense is a huge problem. The offense is too right now, but the defense is a huge problem. So try to get some first downs on 4th and 2. You don't always have to punt. And for the most part, it worked out. That one at the 31, that was dicey, but they were going to score anyway. But playing Rodemaker, playing those offensive linemen that he played, Ja'Kai Douglas played a lot in the slot. I do feel like he's never going to say it, but he knows what they're up against. All of us should know what they're up against. They're not going to win. They're not going to beat competent teams with what they have with all the pieces they were missing tonight. That was just going to be too much. So treat it as a scrimmage and try to learn from it. And I think you saw some positives.
Yeah, and I know you tweeted about
not nearly as many as you saw negatives, though. I don't want to. I get that. This isn't a Pollyanna type video. Like, hey, come on, guys, they played hard, they played well. It's gross what this program is. But I did think there were some positives you could take away. If you squint really hard, you can see some bright spots.
Even defensively, like as you said, they gave up all those passes over the middle. They had some plays were inexplicably bad. Like you mentioned, the Brendan Gant play. A couple of plays where actually there were a couple of Brendan Gant plays you can point to. Not necessarily his fault, but the play where they blitz and then he's playing back and kind of backpedals into the end zone and lets the guy score the touchdown. But there also were some negative plays. Like they made some plays. They got pressure on the quarterback. They affected the quarterback. They affected Bailey Hockman about 30 times more often than they did the kid from Pitt last week with one with a bad ankle. So I think that could be a positive. The Brownlee play, what I liked about the Brownlee interception wasn't even the interception, but the way he competed on the pass. For like most of the season, if there's a jump ball or a fade, Florida State's defensive backs look like they've never practiced against it. They either
Yeah.
tackle the guy, they get turned around. They don't. I mean, he played that perfectly, and then he ended up getting rewarded with the interception. But then the last one I want to ask you about was Warren Thompson's play. Is there any chance that unlocks some sort of key for Warren Thompson? You think? I mean, finally having a play on a Saturday, not a Tuesday of practice, but in a Saturday in a game to snatch the ball away from a defensive back. What do you think the chances are that portends something positive in the future?
I mean, 11%, but it's better than 0%, which is what the chances I would have thought before he made that play. I mean, you can take something from that. And going back to Brownlee real quick, I wrote about that too. Like, it wasn't just that he caught a ball between his legs. I mean, that was just a ridiculous highlight reel thing. But he was in perfect position.
He was.
The receiver had to become a DB, and he was in perfect position, and he went and tried to get the ball. He went and tried to attack the ball, and it ended up lodging between his legs. But that's what I love to see more than the play itself, was him just going and getting it. And I think what I really liked about him, Ira, when we were talking to him after the game was, because, and I wrote about this in the column too, like when you're in a season like this and it's a game like this, there's nothing really positive to write about. So you ask about effort. Hey, you guys played hard. Wasn't it cool to see your teammates play hard? And he's like, yeah, but effort should always be there. How about learning your assignment and being where you're supposed to be? Like, I thought that was cool too, that he didn't want pats on the back for effort, because the effort should always be there. And I think that's the kind of stuff. He's just a redshirt freshman, one of many freshmen that played a lot tonight, that maybe can start permeating this team. And also want to say, Emmett Rice, man, that guy plays hard, man. He plays hard. He wouldn't answer whether he was asked by Aslan if he was thinking about coming back next year, because he can. He said he's not thinking about that. He's thinking about this year. But man, he's played really well. Gainer, look, there's some matchups there. You can't have him cover that kid in the slot. That wasn't great, but I thought he played pretty well. And you're just limited in some spots. Brendan Gant, that touchdown was crazy. But yeah, both touchdowns. Like, why would we're going to ask Fuller that on Monday, because Travis Jay did that in the first quarter too. They had a 3rd and 8. They brought 6 guys, and Travis Jay just gives him a wide open throw for a first down, like an easy middle school throw. Why aren't you playing more up on your man when you're blitzing like that? They don't seem to jive real well. But overall, I thought the defensive line played, well. I mean, well-ish for itself. I don't think they ran the ball well at all until the final drive, and then when the game was out of reach. And I thought they did affect Bailey Hawkman. Bailey Hawkman made some incredible throws.
I was going to say that, man. Like, I'm glad you brought that up, because his numbers in the first half were great, but he made 4 unbelievable throws. There's like the one where he's rolling and he throws it, like he's rolling, he throws it like
it was against Brownlee, I think.
But it was like between like 2 or 3 defenders. It had to be perfect. Like, there's like the smallest tiny, it was an NFL throw.
He had a 3rd down conversion. It might be that same one, but he had third down conversion in the second quarter, I believe, where Brownlee's right there and he's rolling to his left and he throws it, and the guy makes a diving, sliding catch, and just misses deflecting it. It was a great throw. Like, some of those were really good throws, and he did a really good job of buying time. He played well. If he'd have played his normal way, or if he'd have played if he hadn't played the best game of his career, it's obviously a little bit closer. And I will say this: I think if Jordan Travis plays in this game, it's a game in the 4th quarter. I just do. I think the defense was there. I think the defense tried hard. The offense was so bad early because they didn't trust Chubba. And I think looking back, that was a mistake. It didn't make any sense, especially when you didn't have LaDamian Webb. But then again, you look at it and you're like, okay, air it out. Who are you going to throw to? LaDamian Webb, Tamarian Terry, and Jordan Travis have been your 3 best playmakers all year. 2 of them weren't in the stadium, and the other one was limited. So you just didn't have a ton of options. This was not going to be something you could win a shootout with. And I thought overall, knowing that the way you were handcuffed on offense, you did about as well as you could hope. It's not good, but this is Florida. This is how we judge Florida State in 2020. It's small gains. It's not going to be something major anymore. They're not beating Clemson next week. They're probably not beating Virginia, maybe Duke. But don't you think that if you look at some of the things, you could see I think they were better this week than they were last week. How about that?
And this week's Florida State team kills last week's Florida State team.
Crushes it. They're in the victory formation, buddy.
Last thing I want to touch on is that quarterback situation, as you mentioned. I think Chubba, especially the second half, as you said, one of the things that Chubba talked about in the post-game press conference, which people can find on our YouTube page or at warchant.com, is Chubba talked about how the first half, basically he had 1 or 2 reads on every play. In the second half, they actually let him run the offense, and it paid off. I mean, he made some plays, he made some really nice runs, and he drops back and runs. He's not as elusive as Jordan Travis. He's not in the same ballpark, same continent as Jordan Travis when it comes to being elusive. But when he tucks it and runs, he does have some decent wheels. And I thought he stepped into some throws. He made some throws with authority. So that was all positive. But if Jordan Travis comes back healthy, we definitely think he's the guy the rest of this season. If he's back for, say, Clemson, Virginia, or Duke, you got to think Jordan Travis gives you a better chance to win. But do you think Chubba makes people feel better? Do you feel better about Chubba Purdy as a possible option as a starter in 2021 now?
Yes. I think the limits you have on offense and you will have in 2021 with playmakers, you need your quarterback to be a playmaker. So if Jordan Travis is healthy, he's your guy. I still think that, but that's a huge if. And Chubba Purdy showed that he's not going to be a detriment. He can play. He's not a runner, but he can run, if that makes sense. He's not a guy that's going to run for 100 yards. He's not a guy that's going to make a bunch of guys miss, but he can get you 18 yards before they turn around. Like, he's a fast guy. He reminds you, like we texted, he kind of reminds you of Ponder. Ponder wasn't shifty and elusive, but he could get you some yards if there was a hole there. And he's going to get better. Like, I thought he got better with the speed of the game as it got on. He understood, okay, I can get by this guy. I can't get by this guy. And he threw it away, and he didn't have any turnovers, which I thought was a really good thing. He only got sacked once. Not a lot of negative plays out of him, not a lot of positives, but not a lot of negatives, which I think is just as important. I still think moving forward, but mainly because Chubba did let a few rip, but did he impress you with his arm enough to say, yep, that plays better than what Jordan Travis does? Again, it's his first start, but his arm wasn't special enough or special at all to make me think, okay, he's the guy next year. But it was also his first start, and he ended up with 240 yards of total offense, 2 touchdowns, and no turnovers. So that's not bad. I still think Jordan gives you got to have a way to incorporate Jordan Travis moving forward, that you don't have a lot of those on your team.
All right, man. Well, I hope you enjoyed your time in Raleigh and in your mobster den that you're filming from. And we're gonna sign off now.
Did you see the guy go in the bathroom when we were?
I heard him. I didn't see him.
Great.
I think you were minimized at that point. Aslan was trying to help us out.
Okay, good.
All right, man. Well, people, you can read Corey's column at warchant.com. We'll have that up. I'll have my 3-2-1 tomorrow. We'll have more coverage. And then the NBA draft is this week. So stay tuned.
There you go.
Florida State basketball also starts in a couple weeks. So we're kind of pivoting to basketball this week. There might be a football game on Saturday. We're not sure. We might cover it. We might not.
I think the soccer team plays for an ACC championship.
Correct.
Later on Sunday, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Stay tuned to warchant.com for complete coverage.
There are good sports teams at Florida State. A lot of them.
There are. And there will be more in the future. We're just not
We're in a holding pattern.
All right, man. Say good night, Corey.
Good night, Corey.